Welcome to Shaq's house. Shaq's house. That's our Shaq. You're now in Shaq's house. Welcome to Shaq's house.
What's going on, Shaq Housers? How y'all doing? It's your boy, the one and only Shaq House here. Happy Monday. Hope your week went well. Check this out. Today we're going to be talking about two mutants who exemplify the phrase, "The heat is on. The heat is on." If I may get my little singing Beverly Hills Cop on right quick. Yeah, two mutants whose power is to radiate heat, but in different ways. One of them is a Grant Morrison creation from New X-Men, and the other is a fan favorite from Excalibur. If you saw the cover, you know who I'm talking about. I wanted to do this comparison because even though it looks like an easy match, one deserves more of a study than the other, I suppose, right? I mean, Pete Wisdom, we know enough about him. We know how that dude's a beast, but Redneck, let's give him some shine too. And speaking of shine, shout out to all my IG supporters who have been backing me up. That's right. Shout out to the Ex-Wife Podcast, shout out to X-Menpedia, and shout out to X-Men Our Family. Thank the three of you. I'm going to be thanking somebody like every episode now. You've been supporting me. I love your episodes. I love your podcast. Love what you guys do. Thank you for what you post. Anywho, let's get on with the show.
Redneck. Redneck was a mutant born with the power to produce intense thermal energy and then generated as radiant heat energy from his hands and arms, making them glow red like the heating coils of a stove. He could melt through solid steel with a touch. After being depowered on M-Day, Vincent became the new warrior named Skybolt, wearing a modified osmium alloy suit patterned after those of Turbo, the Beetle, and other suits. The suit protected him from all manner of physical impact, and his back-mounted jets used industrial-strength turbine fans to allow him to fly. Skybolt also employed wrist launchers which fired turbo missiles, including penetrative, explosive, and ice-generating varieties. Like all members of this iteration of the New Warriors, Vincent had a utility belt with cartridges containing PIM particles for reducing opponents down to size or impact webbing for quickly wrapping up and restraining felons. His suit also generated an anti-gravity platform for flight and propulsion, and contained a ghost mode that rendered him intangible and utterly unaffected by physical assaults. Night Thrasher, the leader of the New Warriors, was able to remotely trigger the ghost circuitry, but it's unknown if he granted independent control of that ability to his teammates prior to the New Warriors' disbandment. Some fun facts. Redneck was a Grant Morrison creation from his New X-Men run. As his mutant name implies, he's a southern-bred mutant who became a student at Xavier's Institute. While there, he joined Quentin Quire's Omega Gang and became hooked on the mutant-enhancing drug Kick. With the Omega Gang, he started the riot at Xavier's, but was incapacitated and sent to a human jail where he feared for his life, lost his powers on M-Day, joined the New Warriors, and then finally died with them via an explosion against the Cape Killers. He couldn't swim by his own admission, came from a big family in Arkansas, and if he was alive today, he'd be a Trump supporter with a MAGA hat. It's unknown if he was ever resurrected on Krakoa, however. Pete Wisdom. Pete Wisdom possesses the mutant ability to generate what he calls hot knives, razor-edged blades of intense thermoplasmic energy with temperatures exceeding that of the sun's core, which is approximately 15,700,000 degrees Celsius or 28,260,000 degrees Fahrenheit. When fired, the hot knives travel at incredible speeds and are capable of piercing just about anything short of adamantium. Though normally the size of a standard knife blade, Wisdom can manifest a hot knife of a much larger diameter if he concentrates. He can cause the hot knives to materialize around his body, hovering in midair over his shoulders until he chooses to send them flying out, or make them sprout from his fingers as if they were talons. He can manifest a cluster of hot knives in the air in front of him as a shield which incinerates projectile attacks to protect him from harm, and can survive jumps from great heights by using the heat generated by the hot knives as a thermal buoy, lowering him more or less gently to the ground. Some fun facts. Pete Wisdom is one of Warren Ellis's best creations. but it's unknown when and the circumstances under which his mutant powers manifested themselves. But having trained with the Special Air Service, the SAS, Pete is an excellent hand-to-hand fighter and an excellent shot, as well as being a master strategist unencumbered by any sense of fair play. He's an acerbic, chain-smoking Brit with lots of connections. Wisdom, he joined MI6 in British intelligence at a young age and rose quickly in the ranks. He was working for Black Air, a clandestine agency for the British government, when he became affiliated with the British mutant superhero team Excalibur, where he had a relationship with Kitty Pryde. When Kitty broke it off with him because of their age difference, Pete went on to become the leader of X-Force, teaching them battlefield tactics and learning how to use their powers in new and different ways. For example, Pete Wisdom taught Meltdown how to use her plasma-based abilities in a similar way to his, and he even made Warpath tap into his full potential when he manifested the power of self-propelled flight. Though he declined citizenship due to his duties with the covert agency MI13, Pete later accepted citizenship on Krakoa when he was resurrected on the island, but presumably since the fall of X, he's back with British intelligence. Okay, let's do a little bit of compare and contrast. Both Redneck and Pete Wisdom, they both share the same power. They bodily generate heat energy and release it through their skin. And to generate heat, they'd have to be speeding up molecular motion in their own bodies, harnessing it, and then releasing it outwards, but by different means. Redneck, he radiates his heat energy from the bones in his hands only. They glow brightly, and they burn on contact. Now, Pete Wisdom, he has fully weaponized his power, and given his personality and his training, he'd have to. While Pete also generates his power via his hands and his fingers, he's been shown able to release his energy from other areas of his body, such as his eyes. He can shape his energy as well, not just as hot knives, but also in circular patterns to shield himself from incoming projectiles by incinerating them before contact. Also, he can even lower the temperatures to snap a cap from off a beer bottle without destroying either one. However, Wisdom may have a certain telekinetic aspect to his power as well. The energy that he generates has a certain solidity to it, and he can mentally direct the trajectory of that energy. During his first meeting with Colossus, he generated a large enough hot knife that pierced right through Colossus's organic steel body, severely injuring him. Also, both of their energy signatures are appropriately orange colored, most of the time. Heat appears orange because, as an object heats up, the peak wavelength of the radiation it emits moves to shorter wavelengths, from infrared to red, then orange, and so forth. Also, both mutants, they generate heat without open flame. They're thermokinetics to start, not pyrokinetics. But what's the difference? A true pyrokinetic controls flame. They can create ignition and combustion and shape fires however they want. However, they can only control the heat and the temperature of the fire that they're controlling. They cannot control heat and temperature directly, which is what a thermokinetic does. Thermokinesis can produce heat without flame, melt solid objects, evaporate liquids, etc. A full-fledged thermokinetic can also reduce heat, thereby creating cold, which is what Iceman does. However, characters like Rusty Collins, Match, and the Human Torch appear to be both. Although with Match and Johnny Storm, what they do is they create a form of plasma energy that has the properties of and resembles fire, but is still sufficient for a full-fledged pyrokinetic to manipulate. Pete Wisdom, he could technically qualify as both, since his hot knives are both thermal and plasmic. Also, consider this. Whose power is hotter? Sunfire's or Pete Wisdom's? I mean, yeah, the hot knives, they probably contain more concentrated heat striking a target at the moment of impact, but sustained application of Sunfire's energy to a target would quickly raise its temperature to higher than the hot knives could ever produce. Lastly, Redneck's power has the maximum temperature of a 2-bar electric heater. Of course, those are his words, and just shows just how unimaginative he is with his power. He's kind of like Briquette from Hell's Bells during Peter David's first run of X Factor. Her power was rock-hard skin. Rock-hard exothermic skin that could reach temperatures as high as 2,000 degrees. But Redneck, he can never do that. I mean, look at him right here. He's crying in a human jail about being persecuted. but apparently still able to use his powers. But that's what happens when you apply Scared straight to a teenage boy who's not as tough as he thinks he is. Now Pete Wisdom, he has greater applications to his power, and plus, he's no bitch. That said, Pete Wisdom wins. Alright, Shaghousers, that's what I got for you this week. Next week I'm going to be doing a rundown on a character who I've slightly discussed in other videos, but now I'm going to give him some shine. So you have a good week and you tune in then. I'll see you. Later!
Mansion, apartment.
Shack house. Yes!
Yeah.